We are getting right into it. And what the biggest story of the week, the biggest game of the week on Monday Night Football was the Seahawks at home defeating the Eagles 20-17. If you're not familiar, Raj and I are both big, hard Eagles fans. So, Raj, we're hard Eagles fans, hardcore Eagles fans.
Well, not hard at the moment for the Eagles. Anything to get
there's certainly none of that going around. Raj, I'll just kick it to you. Just give your perspectives on the Eagles dropping their third straight game.
I was like, okay, we were going to drop one of these games, and it was to Dallas. I was like, or the Niners. I was like, okay, whatever. And then again to Dallas, but we didn't even put up a fight. Offense looked terrible. Fumbled 3 times from our big 3. Okay, you know what? Regroup, and we were on the road. Let's just kill Seattle because they have Drew Lock at QB, and all you have to do is just make DK angry, and he's gonna fight somebody. Like I said, have Reed Blankenship say something to him, and next thing you know, Reed's on the floor, and DK's ejected. Whatever.
That's why you should have sent in one of your third string guys and just fought DK and had them both get kicked.
We sent in Darius Slay with his post-op knee,
he's just standing there, he's on crutches and just trying to punch him.
Yep, and I'm watching the game. That first drive, that's like a textbook very good drive. We killed at least 8 to 9 minutes, handed the ball off, smart play calling. We scored, and we took almost half of a quarter off the clock. And I'm like, that's a textbook drive right there. You killed a lot of time. You controlled the game, and we were controlling the majority of that game.
You controlled 90% of that game
until the last about 2 minutes, the last Seahawks drive.
And minute 30 seconds.
Yeah, something like that. And that fourth quarter, just couple things I observed. We didn't need to send a deep pass to Quez Watkins. We really didn't need to do that. We just needed a first down and kept doing what we did the first
drive. An egregious missed PI though.
That was bad, yeah.
But you can't have that happen. You just can't throw that pass. It's just dumb
I think on that play specifically, because there were some Eagles fans they're not going to call the PI against the Eagles. It's yeah, but there's also a point of just don't throw the pass. He was. It wasn't like the PI meant he wasn't covered. Love had him covered. I think it was
it wasn't great coverage, but he was still close enough that it's dude, you got to be really trusting your receiver to get this ball.
Yeah, and it wasn't a first down; it was a 3rd down and 5 or 3rd down and 6.
Yeah, that didn't could have just thrown a quick check down.
Also, and Roger, we'll get back to you in a second. This has been the thing that frustrates me the most about the Eagles, recent with the play calling or decision making by Hurts. This team is the same exact team who said we view every 1st and 10 like a 1st and 9 because we can get a yard automatically on the tush push, and sometimes they get 2. So you can almost view anything as 1st and 8. So when they're in 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5 scenarios, you're only looking at getting 3 or 4 yards on any given play. So the team that prides themselves on, don't worry, it's always 4 down territory, is a team that's throwing the ball 30 yards downfield on 3rd down. It goes against the exact thing they pride themselves on in the beginning of weeks, in the beginning of the season, where they're just we don't care if it's a short field, short 4th down, we're going for it. But on 3rd down, they throw that out of the playbook. Because they don't put themselves in short 4th down territory because they chuck the ball downfield.
Yep, that's exactly what happened in the fourth quarter. Exactly. We were up by, I forget what we were up by. We were up at that point, and there was about, I think 5-ish something minutes left in the game, whatever was left in the game. And on that 3rd down, I was sitting there, I'm like, okay, cool. Just go game manager mode, Hurts. Just, get the first, do something simple. You have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, DeAndre Swift. You have a lot of talent on offense. And yet you threw a deep pass to Quez Watkins. I know he's speedy Batman, but there was no need to throw that deep pass on 3rd and 5. We just needed the first. And honestly, I kind of like having Matt Patricia on the sideline because the defense played pretty well besides that last drive. And that was only because James Bradbury got toasted.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think a lot of people after the game were like, well, Matt Patricia's defense, look at that, got cooked. It didn't make a big difference.
Really,
they got cooked in the final. I was like, and some people were like, it's Drew Lock. Whatever it was, the Eagles had let the Seahawks score 10 points at home on them in the first part of the game before the last drive. Mind you, they were starting 2 rookie cornerbacks. They were down an all-pro cornerback in Darius Slay. They had constant injuries throughout the game. And they're in a tough spot all the way on the road, and they had let up 10 points throughout the game. Meanwhile, this is all while James Bradbury is getting cooked for 6 targets, 6 catches, 102 yards, and let up a touchdown. Like Bradbury gets cooked all game, and the defense lets up 20 points, and people were like, Matt Patricia's defense looked good this week, but the problem is when you're a team and you only score 17 points, you leave yourself open to losing games based on one lucky, one unexpected, one trick play. That's what you reduce your margin for error. And the Eagles had opportunities to score 20 points, 24 points, and so on, and they didn't take advantage of that. I think 1 minute and 43 seconds left in the second quarter, they get the ball back after the Seahawks scored, and I was like, okay, we'll run the clock down. We might have to kick a last-minute field goal or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles ended up having to punt the ball back to Seattle because they had a completed catch and then like 3 straight incompletions. No, the clock doesn't run. They have to punt the ball back to Seattle with 1:43 left in the second. That was a prime opportunity to go down, get 3 points at a bare minimum. At least you don't have to give the ball back to Seattle, and they gave it right back to them.
Because, I mean, something like that you can kind of tell is the difference between, unfortunately, how the 49ers are just like a tier above the Eagles right now. Because look at like the 49ers game. They were up like 42 to like 16 or something. They let in a stupid touchdown, like where like people just stopped playing basically, and the dude like ran into the end zone. And it's like, if you only scored like 20 something points, like Arizona could have been winning that game. Like if you only scored 3 touchdowns, like Arizona could have been up 22 to whatever. But because they're up by 45, it didn't really matter. Like, but then that's the difference, is like you see like, okay, well, there's a different tier of offense here where they are just putting the ball in the end zone every single drive of that first half, basically. Like they are barely ever punting, barely ever turning the ball over, and it's like they are just controlling it the entire time. So they can, things happen. It's football. Like some stupid crap might happen every once in a while, but you have that greater margin of error to let in something dumb like that happen. Then it's like, okay, well, we're fine. Let's just hold on to the ball for the rest of this game, kick a field goal. We're still going to win 45-22. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, it's simply, I think people want to keep pointing fingers to the defense because we had the whole defensive coordinator controversy. Sean Desai gets moved to the booth. He's still a defensive coordinator, but Matt Patricia is essentially the acting DC. They just don't want to. They don't want to demote him. All that, a lot of drama. But at the end of the day, the defense doesn't have the star talent the offense has. I don't know if I can name a better situation offensively than you want to be in than the Eagles. You can make an argument for the 49ers, but the Eagles have 2 very good / great receivers. They have a very good tight end. He's underrated, but very good. They have Swift, who's a very good running back. They have
2 Hall of Famers on the line.
Yeah, they have 2 Hall of Famers on the line, and a line that is top 5 in the league, no doubt. They haven't been playing that great recently, but they have top 5 talent in the league, probably rated the best offensive line coming into the year. And even the side pieces on offense, like Rashad Penny, Boston Scott,
Gainwell, Watkins,
Gainwell, Watkins. They've got a solid team set there, and they have Jalen Hurts, who came in second in MVP voting last year and got a $50 million contract. So you look at the offensive pieces and you say that team needs to be helping out the defense, because what our team didn't spend money on was the secondary. So now as an offense, you need to that's what Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs did for years. They had Tyreek Hill at wide receiver. They had Travis Kelce, they had Patrick Mahomes, and they had a bad defense. And that's what the question mark for the Chiefs is always like, is their defense going to hold it together? And they did in Super Bowls, but it was on the Chiefs offense to overcome the deficiency on defense because they just had more talent at that position. The Eagles offense is not overachieving and covering for the mistakes that the Eagles have on the secondary. So I would never, even James Bradbury got cooked all game. He's a cornerback 3 right now with how he's playing, and he was playing like a cornerback 1 because of the deficiencies and the injuries to Slay. So of course he got cooked. Like he was playing one-on-one with receivers he shouldn't be playing one-on-one with. But as an offense, you have to score more than 17, and that comes down to Jalen Hurts not throwing 2 interceptions. As simple as that.
Came in clutch this game. The former Giant.
the first interception, in my opinion, is egregious. Like, you're throwing the ball in a spot of the field where it should not be thrown. You should not be throwing a deep pass in that situation. Just something I don't think should be happening in that spot. You've got a team, you can march down the field, whatnot. And the second one, you can say it was the end of the game, but there was still time left to get down and kick a field goal. You only needed a field goal, so you didn't end the game on an interception because you tossed a Hail Mary, or you needed to get 90 yards.
There's still
and
time because you needed a field goal. You had 2
Yeah.
timeouts in 12
And
seconds.
we have 3
Wi-
like Jake Elliott.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say with a kicker that has made multiple 60-yard game tying, game winning field goals. So
Yep.
your margin of error is a lot bigger there, and you throw it into double coverage.
Yeah, there was a picture of like it was like whatever the sky cam. It was like behind Jalen Hurts, and he missed Devontae Smith on the left side, who was pretty open. But the one that was egregious was Kenneth Gainwell. There was nobody. He was on like a 6-yard check down. There's nobody within 25 yards of him. Like
Yeah.
that dude could have ran for 25 yards because they're at midfield. They're literally at midfield,
Yep.
like exactly on the 50. That dude could have ran and got 25 yards without
Slid
anyone
down,
even coming
timeout.
close
We
to him.
had 2
Slid
timeouts
down,
left.
didn't even risk it. Take the timeout. You're good. You could have had like another 6 seconds maybe to try something, and then like you just kick a field goal and you're fine.
And
But they went for
what's
the Hail Mary
concern
and it didn't
and what's
work.
concerning is, and this is the take I've been on more recently, is there's been a lot of bad sky cam footage from Jalen Hurts about him missing guys and throwing in the coverage he shouldn't. And you paid the guy $50 million a year to be your quarterback making the smart decisions, and right now he's not getting the job done.
Do
he leads the
you-
league. Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was gonna just say, like, do you think that that's Jalen making those decisions, or do you think that's the offense coordinator in his ear saying, like, throw this pass?
It has to be Jalen, in my opinion. And if it is the team, then they need to figure it out, because when you pay a quarterback $50 million, you are paying him to audible out of calls if you see something at the line. You're paying him to make the plays off schedule and all the stuff. So if
That's fair.
you're Jalen Hurts and the offensive coordinator's like, hey, you should really be looking for AJ Brown on this deep route, and you're using your eyes, you're going through your reads, and you see that there's a check down there for a free 20 yards. It doesn't matter what your coach told you to look at pre-snap. Like, you go through your progressions, you make the read, and you move on. If you make the right play, it's not like Sirianni or Brian Johnson's going to be like, Jalen, I told you should be looking downfield. Like, you have to make those reads. Andy Reid doesn't go off. And Patrick Mahomes doesn't come off the field and Andy Reid go, Pat, I'm mad that you didn't throw the ball to the guy I thought. Like, you pay your quarterback to make that type of money. They should be like coaches on the field. And
Yeah,
some people
that's fair.
have said Jalen Hurts, he only played for that half of the year, and then he played for the full year last year, and then this year it's only his 3rd year. But I throw it out the window. You got the money. Like, they're not paying you to be great in 5 years, 6 years. They're paying you to be great right now. You make one of the most expensive contracts in the league, and I don't know where I would rank him in terms of quarterbacks, but I don't think he's been having a top 10 QB season, and I don't feel like that's a hot take. He leads the league in turnovers. He's tied with Sam Howell, Josh Dobbs, and then Josh Allen is the outlier. But Josh Allen's a way better quarterback than him, and it's been a way better established quarterback.
Josh Allen
than
is
him.
a true like gunslinger, where it's like he's going to lead the league in touchdowns, but he is also going to have a decent amount of interceptions. Not as many as like a Jameis Winston, like a 30 for 30, but
Yeah.
still a decent amount.
Yeah, that's Josh Allen's MO, and I hold space for Josh Allen to have a lot of turnovers. And Jalen Hurts' touchdowns and his ability there has been by his legs, and I give him credit for going in for tush pushes, but I would probably estimate about half his tush pushes could be done by running back. Either a running back could take the direct snap, or they could just do a regular running play and get those in.
Because
so,
you can teach somebody pretty, like, I'm not saying it's easy, but like you can kind of teach somebody, like, if you needed to like pull your quarterback and just do a direct snap with the same thing, like you could put a running back in during those plays. Like, if you
yeah,
needed
and that's not to devalue Hurts taking those tush pushes, but it's when you see the numbers of 24 total touchdowns or whatever he's at for the year.
But
you
then
have
it's
to
like
add
how many of those were pushed? Yeah.
Yeah, those aren't Patrick Mahomes total touchdowns or what's another guy? Like, even Josh Allen doesn't feel like he runs in for a lot of touchdowns. Like he's really
But
throwing
he
the ball in the
runs
end
those
zone.
in. He's not like pushed. Like those are
Yeah,
him
yeah.
like using his legs and scrambling to get in. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, and whatnot. So my take on the Eagles is, if you ask me if they're fraudulent, it's in a couple like levels. Are they frauds in terms of making the playoffs? No, they're going to make the playoffs. They're a good football team. They
Okay, thank
are
God.
10
I was worried there for a
they're
sec.
they're 10-4. They're going to probably win a first round playoff game, we hope. And they're like, it's not like the
Okay,
season's over.
you guys
Kansas
can
season.
beat like. I'm trying to think about what team might sneak into that last spot. Like you'll beat like
Yeah.
the Rams or something like that like sneaks in.
I mean, I think a Rams could be a tough spot.
Oh my God, you'll be fine. Calm down.
No, I would put money on us to win the game. I think we'd ultimately win, but I think it could be a tough spot. But if we play anybody from the NFC South, like we'll be favorites, and I would expect us to win. That being said, it would be tough.
Yeah.
Tougher now. Are they frauds in terms of Super Bowl expectations? Absolutely.
Yeah,
They
that's
were they were second in odds to go back to the Super Bowl this year. It felt like a Chiefs Eagles rematch was on the rise. They're 10-1 to start the year. Now they're Super Bowl favorites, and they lose 3 straight games in bad fashion. And it's the constant for me. It's the constant post game. We need to make changes. Do we need to change the play calling? We're changing the defensive coordinator. Why isn't Jalen Hurts playing well? The scheme is bad, and that's if we're talking about, are they frauds for the Super Bowl? 100%. They're not going to make the Super Bowl. They're not going to make the NFC Championship game at this rate unless things change. They're easily the 4th best team in the NFC right now in my eyes. I don't think there's an argument for. I think Detroit has to be considered better than the Eagles at this point, because I view the Broncos and the Seahawks on kind of similar footing. I would say the Seahawks are maybe a little bit better, but I would say they're comparable teams right around that like 12 to 15 and teams in the league, and the Lions just annihilated the Broncos and whatnot. Also, the Lions would carve up the Eagles secondary right in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I mean that offense would do like. What would you have, like Amon-Ra St. Brown just running all over the place? Like Laporta he would have like a Hall of Fame game. Like no one is covering him.
Yeah. So yeah, the Eagles are frauds in terms of Super Bowl. Unless things change, they're not going to make the Super Bowl, and that's what I've come to like my expectations have moved to. Of course, still looking tight. I think people are giving the Eagles a little bit too much credit in terms of these last 3 games, as if they are just given games. They're 2 division games, and they're a game against your head coach that left, like your old defensive coordinator, who now is the head coach of the Cardinals. So I think the Eagles will win all games, but this idea that like the Eagles will win out, they'll be the 2nd seed, they'll be fine, is like, I would have everyone slow their roll a little bit on that. The Eagles have just lost 3 straight games, and they haven't been good looks. The game against the Cowboys and 49ers, they were utterly destroyed. The game against the Seahawks, they mustered 7 second half points against a defense that Seahawks defense is cool. They're not elite. They're not world beaters.
Okay, first of all, Julian Love is bad in coverage, period. He's not good in coverage. I don't know how he had 2 picks that game. He's actively bad. Because
Jalen Hurts is like, I think he's targeting the guy Julian Love is covering, because he's like, this guy isn't good, but you can't throw the ball because the guy is bad and then hope your receiver makes a play. You can only do that if you're throwing to Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, those type of guys.
Yeah, well, and also the ball was just underthrown. Like
twice.
Because like if you just overthrew it, if anything, it would have just been incomplete, or given him a shot like Drew Lock did at the end there.
Yep,
where he threw Jackson Smith and Jigba. He threw him deep and far, and it was like he got like a fingertip catch, and it was amazing. But he gave him a shot. Like there's no defender that could have covered him, and very happy for Drew Lock. By the way, that dude's a stud. I love him.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking at the end of the post game text our group chat, I was like, Drew Lock is like actually kind of likable. Like hearing him on the press conference,
like, tear up like at the end of that, where he's like, like everybody had faith in me. Like Gino was hyping him up. Like everybody was like so happy for him, because like he hasn't really gotten like a real fair shot in the NFL, and like he's like
he started with the Broncos, right?
Yeah, he was like with the Broncos, who were god awful, and then it was like he never got a fair shot. And then they just sent him off to Seattle in the Russell Wilson trade, but they like everybody. He seems like a great locker room guy that you would just like love to just like hang out with. Because like you see him doing like his old like college celebration of like putting the suit on, like that was like so good. Like he
Yeah.
just seems like, and he was shouting out like he was like, yeah, like he was he even said he was like we were really leaning on Kenneth Gainwell, or no, not Kenneth Gainwell,
Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker, like the entire time he was like, yeah, I mean he did the heavy lifting for us. Like
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, I
loved
think
it.
that's what you want to see in a backup quarterback, right? Like a guy who comes in, brings swagger into the locker room, brings swagger into the game, and
Yeah.
does some exciting. I think that's what's fun about Gardner Minshew. Like we have the Minshew magic every
Yep.
once or twice every year, and he's a great locker room guy.
Oh yeah.
Raj, any final thoughts on the Eagles and kind of where they stand going into these final 3 games?
You know, it's not worth spending my time worrying about this team. I'm just gonna wait and see what they do. Maybe
Okay.
they'll give me some Christmas Day miracles.
Hang on. Miracle, you're playing the Giants. Let's calm down with that
Tommy
one.
DeVito's gonna beat us.
Okay.
It's over.
Okay, time out. If I were to hand you a piece of paper at the beginning of the year and said you will sign this and the Eagles will be 13-4 going into the playoffs, would you sign that?
I would first ask, what teams did we lose to?
No, nothing. Just 13-4. If I told you you lost to the Cowboys and the 49ers, would you be mad?
Oh no, I would be fine with that. But if I heard Jets and Seahawks, that's another story.
Well, if you heard Jets at the beginning of the year, you would have thought Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, the Jets would have been a whole
You're
different
right,
story.
You're right.
It would have just been that would have only been one bad loss.
I mean, and that's just Peter. What you're saying is exactly where like
I'm
I
delusional.
think some people got
okay?
overboard. Like Eagles, in terms of a good team, still a viable playoff team.
Absolutely,
They're fine. They're fine.
But there's just a different
in
tier
terms
of
of
team for playoffs. Yeah,
yeah, they've moved themselves out of, in my opinion, Super Bowl contender tier. They are on the
Yep.
outside looking in on what teams I think right now can win a Super Bowl. And granted, that bubble's really small, but I don't see a path for them getting out of the NFC at the current moment, just based on the fact that I think they probably lose any second round matchup they're in. And
because it'll be Cowboys or 49ers. Like,
Cowboys, 49ers, or Lions, and
yeah,
I'm not sure they can beat any of those teams.
mm-hmm.
So
Just a waiting
Well,
game now. We'll wait. And
You'll
see
win
what
the
Moving
last 3 games, so you're good.